environmental but climatic. Okay, and to finish off on applications of bringing together this big historical and archaeological data, I'm going to refer to a case study which is still underway, but I'm going to be able to show you some preliminary results. And of course, when it comes to the study of the development of complex societies and their collapse, it's difficult to find one that has been more studied than the collapse, the decline and fall of the Western Roman Empire. Now, multiple reasons have been given for this, from the impact of the introduction of Christianity, the role of inflation, political instability, the invasion of the migration of Germanic tribes. I particularly Alexander Demans, he actually compiled a list of 210 reasons explaining why the Roman Empire collapsed and fall. And so he compiled this list from a large amount of authors. And I'm just going to list here some of the most interesting ones, like communism or innovation, whatever that means, fear of life, and hypothermia. Now, like I said also at the beginning of my presentation, I'm particularly interested about studying complex systems, but focusing in particular on human lifeways and aspects of socioeconomic inequality. Now, I had the opportunity of doing an isotopic study on Romans from the actual city of Rome, actually from a suburb of Rome called Centrochelli. A small data set, but what was interesting about this small data set is that the scalums were directly radiocarbon dated. And using Bayesian modeling of these radiocarbon dates, we can distinguish two periods, after 400 AD and before 400 AD. So this early and this late. And this is an important threshold because this is the time of the German tribes arriving in Italy, and then soon after this we have the collapse of the Roman Empire. So here you have the representation of the isotopic values of carbon nitrogen stable isotope for these individuals from Centrochelli, divided into early and late, and a few other periods. And I'm also included in these red or orange circles for comparison individuals from the side of Herculaneum, and also on the side. Now these are the late, so post 400 AD individuals, and you can see there's a wide variability in isotopic values, meaning a high variability in diet. And some of these individuals to the right, they have high nitrogen values. This is indicative of high consumption of animal protein. Now, what about, this is the early period. I don't know if anybody must think about this, but this is the early period, before 400 AD. This is the late period, so after 400 AD. So the diets become all very similar and all very low in terms of animal protein consumption. Okay, and one author, or Professor Walter Scheidel, has published this important book, The Great Lever, where he basically states that socioeconomic inequality can only occur via a great extreme event, such as a political collapse, a pandemic, or wars. And this seems to confirm his hypothesis. Now, I mentioned before Carlo, he did this compilation of medieval isotopic data, and combining this with Roman isotopic data, we can see this pattern whereby indeed after around 400 AD, we can see a diminution in nitrogen values for the Roman Empire overall, something that you can also see via maps. I will not go into details in this, but it's interesting to see that we have this pattern of diminishing protein, animal protein intakes following the collapse of the Roman Empire. Now, I will very briefly mention this. We can actually quantify exactly the diets of these individuals using isotopes and using Bayesian mixing models. But if we have too many food groups, it's not possible to precisely say what is the contribution of these individual food groups. There are simply too many possibilities. We can combine this with the data coming from archaeobotanical, archaeofaunal databases, and with historical sources to improve the precision of dietary estimates. Now, this slide explains the method on how this works, but I will skip you through this because I'm running late on time. But essentially what this allows you to do is to compare with high precision the diets of Romans before and after the collapse of the Roman Empire. So what we see is a diminution in the consumption of wheat, which was a more valued cereal over barley. We see a diminution in the consumption of sources of animal proteins such as marine fish or pigs. And so we also see an increase in the consumption of protein coming from legumes. So there was an economic impact that is visible also via the diet. And this is replicated not only in dietary aspects, but also in information on trade, which is provided by the number of shipwrecks through time in the Mediterranean, by industrial activity, which we know from deposition of lead in ice cores in the Arctic, and also, again, from a dietary aspect, which is the number of bone types from animals in archaeological assemblies. They all show the same picture, this picture of decline after about 200 AD. Now, to analyze this data, we are using machine learning. Okay, so we are using these multiple variables from this complex system, which is difficult for humans to analyze. And so we are using machine learning, which can rank the impact of different factors explaining the decline and fall of the Western Roman Empire. Now, these are very preliminary results, but in terms of the ranking of the main factors that explain this decline and fall, we have inflation until now in our preliminary results as being the primary aspect, then followed by climate, indicated by rainfall, thirdly cultural change, introduction of Christianity, and finally, and only finally, military pressures, so the Germanic movements. Okay? Using another technique called Bayesian point change, we can identify key points from these time series data sets. This is 400 AD, which is relevant for Centrocelli. And using this Bayesian technique, we see 150 AD as the key point where the decline really accentuates. And so even though we have these factors on the left explaining most of the variability, it could be that the Antonine plague that killed a high percentage of Roman population was the trigger that motivated the decline. But as I said, this is still work in progress. There's a series of preliminary aspects that I will not go into. We do know that the medieval world was very different after the Roman world. And so relying on the data from CIMA and using the same machine learning techniques, we can actually assess which factors mainly impinged on diets during the medieval world and assess how this was different from the Roman world. And so in terms of this ranking of variables, first we have aspects such as location, related with location, latitude and longitude. This has to do with the fact that the spatial temporal average for foods varies with environmental factors, as you can see in this map, herbivores. But the main factor after this, explaining the variability in isotopic values, is religion. So very different from the Roman world. And after that, we have the different political divisions. So just to end, how can we assess this impact of the Roman Empire? And I'm just going to read this that was written by a colleague. The idea of a Christian empire continued to play a power role in Western Europe even after the collapse of Roman rule. The name of the Holy Roman Empire bears witness to its claims to sanctity as well as to universality. It emerged as the dominant power in the Mediterranean basin and became the leading cultural, political, and religious center of Western civilization. Now, this was actually written by an artificial intelligence system. So this is the next step in terms of our work. Now, it provides only crude summaries. We cannot build concepts. But one of the uses that we'll have for this artificial intelligence system, it will allow us to locate information from scientific publications. So this will allow us to increase the speed and the volume of data that we can collect, which will have a very effective practical use, besides the ability of building such summaries. And so with this, I end, and I will pass on the word to Sangeeta that will tell you about IsoIndia. Thank you very much.
So Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here with me. I'm Dr. Sangeeta Mahajan. I'm a dental surgeon and an archaeologist. First of all, I thank Ricardo and Sean for being present here to share their thoughts. I thank the organizers for inviting me for this talk. My sincere thanks to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Pramod Pandey, for extending me this opportunity to talk. I'm talking to you here as an administrator of IsoIndia, an initiative that collects stable isotope data from India and its margins. So, Ricardo has already talked in detail about the concept and the need for creating such a platform. Now, that was all the technical information and the information related to what his original concept was and how it is actually coming to shape. So now I'll be talking as an end user with who has some practical problems while doing isotope data research, and what were my problems and how I find IsoIndia uh, very useful. So I'll be talking about that now. So to start with, I'll take my own research as a case study, and I'll explain the importance of IsoIndia when we think about publication of a research or sharing the data sets. So my topic for MPhil dissertation was the stable oxygen and carbon stable isotopes in the carbonates of tooth enamel from the skeletons of the archaeological site of Inamgaon. Everybody knows Inamgaon district, Pune in Maharashtra. So our intention was to assess the changes in diet and climatic variations during the three consecutive phases at the site. That is the Malwa phase, the early Jorwe phase, and the late Jorwe phase. So what I did was I chose 10 skeletons across the three phases, which were stretching over a millennium, and two teeth from each individual was selected, such that the two teeth represented two different stages in the life of the individual. So the enamel was subjected to stable isotope analysis, and the analysis was done at the Birbal Sahani Institute of Paleosciences, Lucknow, and it was carried out by Dr. Neeraj Rai and Dr. Shailesh Agrawal. Uh, when the analysis was performed, only 15 out of 20 teeth delivered results. So, but in these 15 teeth also, the results showed apparent trend towards the consumption of more C4 diet by the inhabitants of the site near the end of the habitation. So, though a sample size of 20 or 15 is a way short of what is considered adequate for any kind of conclusions, this was the maximum that could be done, completed in the stipulated time. Also, out of the 266 skeletons unearthed, only a few individuals fitted well in the research requirements. So, in such a case, an archaeologist possesses little choice. Now, let me share about the problems I faced while working on stable isotopes. First was definitely that the sample size was so small that uh, I was unable to arrive at any conclusion. 15 samples possibly could not represent the entire population that inhabited Inamgaon. Hence, drawing inferences of any kind was not recommended, it was irrational. Interestingly, in the past, one renowned archaeologist had tried to work on stable isotopes of the Inamgaon teeth, and he had failed to get any results. So, this underlined the worth of our study even more, despite the inadequate sample size. The second glitch was associated with the data publication. When I was reviewing the past literature about stable isotopes in India, if you go to Google search engine and put the words stable isotopes in India, you get just 4 or 5 results. There is nothing else on the Google. Like a first time stable isotope researcher like me had a block there. So where to look for more isotope values? So with the exception of few, of course, few published articles, there was nothing online. Even nowadays, what is happening is we are publishing in journals which are only available in the printed form, like our Puratatva or Man and Environment. Or so this data is never put online for others to see. And third thing is the unpublished isotope data. Like I was working on stable isotope, there was another student who was working on the teeth of cattle and buffalo to distinguish the species in the archaeological context. And his research was very noteworthy, but he never published it, and so nobody knows it. So, therefore, I came to understand that irrespective of the small sample size, my data at least needs to be published online. But unfortunately, no renowned journal would accept my manuscript just because of the inadequate sample size. Finally, the data was published in the journal Data in Brief, where only the data and the methodology were followed, were expected to be presented in the manuscript without giving any hint to the interpretations. Uh, Another problem with publication is the huge fee that they charge to publish your article. Like it is anywhere between 500 to $3,500, which is beyond reach of any student, because our institutions, they don't fund the students to publish their articles. We have to manage on our own. So another problem was the lab facility. Like the labs, um, like the institutions having courses of archaeology don't have lab infrastructure of their own. This is a very problematic circumstance, because then we have to collaborate with other institutes. Deccan College previously had a collaboration with a couple of other institutes, but the data was not published by the archaeologists for some reason, and then the labs refused to collaborate with the institute anymore. Timely publication of the data would have avoided these consequences. Then I realized that due to multiple such reasons, many researchers cannot publish their data online. If published, their data could have helped other researchers like me. Like in case of Inamgaon, Pratik Chakravarti has worked on faunal stable isotopes. I have worked on the human stable isotopes. If a third researcher comes and uses this data as a foothold in conjunction with other related data and comes to certain other conclusion in understanding the past of the site, it will be a very good option, and we can understand the site better. This demands for the easy access of isotope data, and that too at a click of the mouse. Also, now in these pandemic days, everybody knows that the access to the libraries is restricted. Hence, it is difficult to get hold of a printed material. So now, considering all these points, the question is, what do we do if the data cannot be published for some reason? And how can a researcher like me publish his or her data online? So here, the unique initiative IsoIndia becomes crucial. As Ricardo has already explained, researchers can deposit their data published or unpublished. If the data is published, you can deposit in the form of the link to the publication, or if it is unpublished, you can put it in an Excel sheet along with the metadata and deposit it with the ISOMemo or IsoIndia. And the best part is the technical support is provided by the ISOMemo team. Now, in that case, what will happen is we can directly compare the stable isotope data from, say, chalcolithic cultures from Maharashtra, different chalcolithic cultures from Maharashtra, or say chalcolithic and megalithic cultures. We can directly compare, and as Ricardo showed us the map, we can easily make a map out of it. So what we need at the moment is uh, values from the temporal and spatial expanse from prehistory to 16th century. We need to collect all the isotope data and bring it online on a single platform for everybody to access it freely without any charges. So I think this is the very reason why I got connected with IsoIndia, IsoMemo, and I feel that I request all my archaeologist uh, friends working on stable isotopes to come forward and deposit their data on IsoIndia. Let's work together and move towards a positive goal. And I thank Ricardo and Sean for being here. And I again thank the organizers for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Sean. So now this talk is open for discussion. If anyone has any query or any observation, or I think I was very happy to see Professor Vijay Sathe sir. He is one of the most renowned paleontologists in India, and a former faculty of Deccan College, and I think also guide of Sangeeta, right?
Yes, he's my guide.
Sathe sir was your guide.
Yes.
Sathe sir still here with us?
Yes, he's there.
Hello, Sathe
Yes.
sir. How are you?
Hi. Hello. Hello.
So I'm happy to see you after such a long time. And
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was there in
us.
college about a while ago. And because
I
of
am not
traffic,
going. I am in quarantine. Still now in quarantine for my
because
son.
of,
Son
because
is
of
COVID positive
oh
now. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Because of traffic, I got late for 5 minutes.
No
Now
problem.
I just rushed home to be on the screen to see all this. In fact, this Ricardo's presented so beautifully. It's amazing. It's amazing. What our long, 1.5 hours long discussion that we had a few months back, and it's equal to that. It's an astounding, really. And it's so promising, so challenging that I'm sure in course of time, more students and more professionals will come forward, putting their full faith in the whole system that Ricardo has explained, and we will be able to have a real rich library across the world. And the best part of it is that this bank is open to all, and everybody will be sure of their bank, their jewels not to be stolen away by anybody. So that kind of security has been provided, and that kind of assurance has been given, supported by such technical know-how. That I'm sure Sangeeta Mahajan, Dr. Sangeeta Mahajan, who is ideally suited for this position of looking after IsoIndia. I congratulate her for this new responsibility that she has assumed now.
Thank you
And
so much.
it's going to be a wonderful experience with each one of us able to access the data and come to the conclusion with due acknowledgement. That's more important. Otherwise, plagiarism is very, very common. So uh, really will be very helpful. It will be very helpful, and perhaps I would be saying path-breaking initiative that has been taken now. So I personally congratulate Ricardo and Sean and Sangeeta for this excellent initiative. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. There was someone called UD who had raised hand.
Yes,
So
yes.
who is? You can please come with a query now. Who was it? Are you still there? Would you like to ask anything? Sangeeta, I have a query regarding this. So, IsoIndia, is it already an active platform? Like, how do we find it? Is it isomemo.com or IsoIndia? How do we find it?
Madam, actually it is isomemo.com, and there are many communities under it. And one such community is IsoIndia. So you have to go to IsoMemo, and there are many communities under it, one of which is IsoIndia. You can access it there.
And when people are submitting their unpublished data, especially unpublished data, how do they copyright it?
Ricardo, you can please.
What's the way of copywriting? Huh?
Ricardo will answer this question.
If I may, yeah. So first of all, many thanks to Professor Vijay Satya for the very kind words. You made me blush. I'm truly honored. And then to answer your question, Amrita, data sets get assigned a DOI, and that's unique. That fully identifies the file, and it can be used for citations in the future also.
So even unpublished data will receive a DOI from isomemo.com the moment I submit.
Yes. So the system is very, very flexible, right? So first, one point of clarification. Actually, Sangeeta, your database is still not listed in isomemo.
I know.
It's listed in Pandora.
Yes.
But now you just motivated me to do so after this conversation. I will write you because I need a couple of feedback from you so that I can do that. And I can quickly do it. But it is listed. If you go to pandora.earth, it is listed there. And that's actually the platform where the data is deposited. Isomemo.com is merely a directory listing the different databases. And so the system is very flexible, as I was saying. So individual researchers can upload their individual data sets. Each of them will get a DOI, making it fully citable. Okay? And then that data can be incorporated into a master file, which Sangeeta is developing, that compiles all of these different individual data sets into a single file so that one can do comparisons across India. And then there's a level above this, which is all these different data sets for different regions of the world, and I'm happy to announce that we have the full world covered, then can be used for much larger scale comparisons. We are even planning to do a map of the dietary history of the world, and hopefully this will be available this year. So, but this has humble beginnings. So I invite individual users to indeed provide their data to Sangeeta. They will get a DOI. They will be citable via this, and then they will also benefit from the fact that the data will have much wider visibility, of course.
Anybody has any other query? Is Professor Sable still there with us? I don't see him.
No, I should add that all of this is free. So, I perhaps spoke too much too fast because I wanted to show everything that can be done. And we are interested not only in collaborations with isotopes, but also with other forms of data. So if you are compiling data on archaeofauna, archaeobotanics, genetics, osteology, this can also be incorporated in our system. And if, for example, it pertains to common materials, it can be linked via networks. So, for example, if someone compiled a data set, osteological data set for India, it can be then linked to IsoIndia, to the same individual. So that for the same individual, you would obtain genetic evidence, osteological evidence, isotopic evidence. And the same thing goes for the types of materials, cereal remains, animal remains, and so forth. So it's also possible to establish other types of databases and then form networks among them if you're interested. And all the modeling that I showed is all done via user-friendly interfaces, all free, all based on R, with this technology called Shiny. And we have video tutorials teaching how to use it, so that if you're interested in mapping the distribution of archaeological fauna through India, the distribution of temperatures, paleo temperatures through India, or specific regions, you can already do it, and you can help with that also. So there's endless possibilities. There's a pity that the presentation could not be recorded because I tend to speak too fast.
Yeah.
But I'll be happy to provide you with the PDF so that you can share it among the colleagues. And
Absolutely.
if they're interested in other parts of collaboration, I'll be happy to discuss it.
I think that would be very helpful because I have this network of archaeologists, more than 500 in India, and I can share it among them. And I'm sure you will get a lot of feedback, and people will definitely connect to you because a lot of people have a lot of data. As Sangeeta said very correctly, she put forth very correctly that it's a major problem, especially because still now in India, the practice is to publish in offline journals. People are still more into hard publications, not in online publications. So that should change. People should understand that why we need to become more online, then the accessibility part is much more easier. And we can combine.
And hopefully they can also contribute with isotopic data to IsoIndia.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. So I think, yes, anybody was saying anything?
Oh, I just wanted to say we face the same problem in Germany with grey literature. And in only recent years is it changing. Because in Germany there's a common practice of publishing monographs, museum monographs and so forth. And so, so a lot of the data goes there and things are changing, but getting all of that data has been extremely painful. So I also understand.
And actually, truly, India has a lot of data. I mean, if you come and see our archaeological sites, the data is so overwhelming that even it becomes difficult for us to process it. Let alone make a bank for it or something. So I think this could be really, because if individuals are allowed to do it, at free of cost, at their leisure, and they're getting a DOI, this would really help archaeologists across, and will help us to do develop a better understanding of the past.
We live in a world of publish or perish. And it's not only publish or perish, it's becoming also get saved or perish. And when in Europe, the whole focus in terms even of jobs, the main aspect is actually obtaining funding. And so one of the main criteria for that is exactly citations. Increasingly also efforts such as database building is also being recognized and taken into account. And with this technology, which free, open source, it facilitates that. And so it puts the acknowledgement on those who deserve it. Those that produce the data, those that compile the data. And so hopefully those will be the ones getting access to funding.
Let's hope, because with the COVID, funding is completely in India. At least I can say even Satya sir will be with me. Like for the last 2 years, we haven't received any research funding.
Not at all.
Not at all. We are really in a bad shape.
Very sad to hear that. Of course, in Europe, there are similar situations, although it varies with country. Germany is very rich, so but in my home country in Portugal, there was a freeze. I also work in the Czech Republic. There was also a freeze in funding. A lot of projects stopped. So hopefully we'll soon overcome this crisis and bring it back.
I would like to end, if there are no questions, I would like to make a small comment on the whole exercise of this afternoon. Is it all over, Amrita?
No, sir. I don't see any questions even in the chat box.
Because I just saw Odi has left.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's fantastic to see the inauguration, if I'm allowed to say so, inauguration of this ISOMET India movement, especially coinciding with 219th birth anniversary of Charles Darwin today.
Oh.
It's a fantastic coincidence.
Yes.
And I would call it an auspicious coincidence that we had Charles Darwin born today. on April 1809, and we are having this kind of inauguration, a kind of a beginning to exercise this wonderful work, endeavor. So that's all. I just remembered that, so I thought of sharing.
Thank you, sir. That's a perfect ending to our discussion today, I would say. Nothing more to say after this. So I, once again, on behalf of Deccan College, my institute, my HOD, and me being the in charge of Archaeology Discussion Group, I would like to thank all of you, especially our speakers, Ricardo, Sangeeta, and Sean. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
making out time amongst your busy schedule and come and give this extremely insightful talk. And to all my students and my colleagues who have also taken their time out and have patiently, for their patient hearing. So thank you all. I'll again update you with our coming Archaeology Discussion Group Talk, which will be on 4th of Saturday of this month. Very soon you will receive the flyer and the details of it. So once again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.